What if everything you know, your name, your memories, the weight of your own body in bed right now, isn't real at all, but just the fleeting contents of someone else's dream? Imagine the world not as solid ground, but as a fragile thought, and when that dreamer wakes, it all dissolves like mist. As you let that idea sink in, let me ask you something quietly unsettling. If you discovered that your entire life was being dreamed by another mind, would you want to keep living it, or would you want to wake them up? Think about that while you listen, and if that question stirs something deep inside, leave your thoughts in the comments, because your answer might reveal how ready you are to face the truth. People have whispered about this possibility for centuries. In ancient Hindu philosophy, the concept of Maya describes reality as an illusion, a veil woven by cosmic consciousness. The Upanishads even suggest that each soul is like a bubble in the dream of Brahman, the ultimate mind. Thousands of years ago, these mystics were already hinting that what you call reality might just be a dream playing inside a larger dream. Even modern science offers unsettling clues. In 2017, physicist Dr. Max Tegmark from MIT proposed that the entire universe could be a mathematical structure, a simulation of sorts, existing only as information. If everything is information, then what's the difference between information and imagination? Between a brain imagining a world and a mind dreaming one? Picture this: you are walking down your favorite street. The air is cool. You can smell bread from a nearby bakery. Then, without warning, the scene fades. You wake up, heart racing, realizing it was all a dream. Yet while you were inside it, every detail felt real. Could this moment be no different? Could you be dreaming right now, just not the one having the dream? Even personal accounts hint at this. Some people have dreams lasting years, entire lives unfolding with families, homes, and heartbreak. When they awaken, they grieve people who never existed. What if our whole existence is like that? One of countless imagined lives flowing through a dreamer's mind, vivid and real until the moment they stir. As you continue to listen, feel the softness of your breath. The border between dream and waking has always been thinner than you think. And tonight, as we wander through these mysteries together, perhaps you will sense it bending. If reality is only a dream, then maybe what awaits beyond it is simply the next awakening. Imagine drifting back through time, further than your memory can reach, further than your history books dared to describe, past the rise of nations, past the shaping of continents, until the world is unrecognizable. Yet minds just like yours are dreaming under the same stars. If reality is truly just someone else's dream, then perhaps the oldest civilizations were the first to glimpse it and tried to leave us warnings etched in stone. The ancient Sumerians, among the first known civilizations around 3500 BCE, wrote of reality as a delicate film stretched between the heavens and the underworld. Their priests believed dreams were literal journeys, not symbolic stories. Archaeologists have uncovered clay tablets from Mesopotamia detailing how kings sought advice from dream interpreters, who treated nightmares as signs that the dreamer had slipped briefly into another realm. Imagine lying on a cold stone floor while a priest whispers, "You walked another world last night." And it was real. Centuries later, Egyptian civilization carried this belief further. Around 1275 BCE, the Ramesside dream book cataloged over 100 dream omens, many terrifying. One passage describes dreaming of drowning as a vision of death not here, but elsewhere. To them, dreams were paths across dimensions, and the dead were simply dreamers who had moved on. In temple sleep chambers, Egyptians practiced incubation rituals, lying still for nights on end, waiting for the gods to place visions into their minds. Perhaps what they were receiving were fragments of other lives slipping through the cracks. Far to the east, ancient Hindu texts spoke with striking clarity about this. The Upanishads, written around 800 BCE, teach that all waking life is Maya, a veil, an illusion. They say the self you know is only a role played by the eternal Atman, which drifts through dreams just as it drifts through lives. The Chandogya Upanishad whispers, "As a man dreams he is elsewhere, so does the self dream this world." Pause and let that echo through you. If this is all a dream, who is the dreamer? The Mayans in Central America saw dreams as portals into the Saibalba, the underworld. Shamans trained to enter this dream realm on behalf of their people, believing that nightmares were glimpses of real battles fought by their souls in parallel worlds. Their stone carvings depict figures floating between life and death, half asleep yet radiant. When Spanish conquerors burned most of the Mayan codices, they may have erased detailed maps of these dream realms, ancient records of what reality truly is. Even ancient Greek philosophers, cornerstones of Western thought, questioned the solidity of reality. Plato described life as a cave where humans watch flickering shadows on the wall, mistaking them for truth. The real world, he claimed, lies beyond the shadows, unseen yet more real than anything. His student Aristotle wrote that dreams carry traces of the divine mind, though humans rarely recognize it. To them, waking life and dream life were not opposites, but two layers of one fabric. And throughout all these cultures runs a single shimmering thread, the belief that this world might not be final, that what we call reality may be the lightest surface of something deeper, something dreaming through us. The ancients did not see dreams as illusions. They saw them as the hidden structure of reality itself. As you lie here now, feel the weight of centuries pressing gently around you, as if the stones and sands of vanished worlds still hum with their voices. Maybe they were not warning us, but inviting us to remember that this life could be only one dream among many, and that waking from it might be the oldest journey humans have ever taken. What if the masters you have heard about your whole life were never explaining reality at all, but training you to wake from it? Imagine teachers across lands speaking in many tongues, each pointing at the same unsettling possibility, that the world in front of your eyes is the dream, and the one who dreams it is, the deeper you awaiting remembrance. Laozi in the Tao Te Ching murmurs that the 10,000 things rise and fall, while the self watches their return. He invites a softness of attention, a way of seeing that loosens the grip of certainty. If you sit still, he implies, the world begins to feel like mist moving across a lake, luminous yet not final. In India, Shankara gathers the threads of Advaita and says the world is Maya, not a lie, but a passing dream inside Brahman. Atman and Brahman are not two, he repeats, and the one who believes they are separate is not fully awake yet. Many say the realization felt less like learning and more like remembering something obvious hidden in plain sight. Buddhist texts sing a similar song. The Diamond Sutra describes all conditioned things as a dream, a bubble, a shadow. Monastics train in lucid presence, so waking and sleeping are met with the same steady awareness. They tell of nights when the dream opened like a door, and the watcher of all states stood clear and calm. Sufi poets turn the insight into honey. Rumi says this place is a dream, and only a sleeper considers it real, then laughs and beckons you closer. He insists the beloved is within, that the veil is thin, that longing itself is the path back to the one who dreams us. In the hush after his verses, you can almost hear a larger mind breathing. Christian mystics join the chorus. Meister Eckhart teaches that the eye with which you see God is the eye with which God sees you. If that is true, then every prayer and every silence is the dreamer gazing at itself through your life. The room grows wider when you hold that thought, like walls sliding away. Modern depth psychology arrives and nods. Carl Jung describes dreams as messages from the objective psyche and hints that waking life may be a dream of a greater soul. Archetypes appear in sleep and in daylight with the same geometry, as if one pattern projected through many rooms. He warns that ignoring dreams is like turning your back on half your life. Now imagine your own history through this lens. That strange childhood memory you could never place, the repeating nightmare that softened the moment you faced it, the sudden calm that once made the world look transparent. What if those were not glitches? What if they were tiny awakenings? The dream shaking hands with its dreamer. As you continue to listen, allow yourself to test this in the smallest ways. Sit with a single breath and notice the space that holds it. Watch a thought rise. Notice it peak, watch it dissolve, and feel the quiet that remains. If reality is a dream, the quiet is the one who dreams, and it is nearer than your pulse. The deeper implication is both simple and vast. You may not need a ladder to a distant heaven. You may only need to stop clutching the scenery of this passing play. The teachers did not ask for belief. They offered experiments in attention, rituals of seeing, practices that turn the key in a very old lock. And if tonight the lock clicks even once, do not force the door. Just rest at the threshold. Let the dream continue as it will, and let the dreamer keep watching. In that patient meeting, chapter by chapter, the life you thought was solid may soften into light, and what you are may begin to wake. For centuries, science has been humanity's anchor. Solid, measurable, dependable. But what if even science, the very tool we use to define reality, is quietly hinting that reality might not be real at all? That it might be someone else's dream, playing through the mind like light through a projector. The roots of modern science emerged in the 17th century, when René Descartes sought absolute certainty. He doubted everything, his senses, the world, even his body, until only one thing remained: I think, therefore I am. Yet buried in this famous line is an overlooked paradox. Descartes admitted he could not prove the world was real, only that thoughts were happening. It's as if he stood at the edge of waking, unsure if he was thinking or being dreamed. Then came Isaac Newton, who forged the laws of motion and gravity. He described the universe as a clockwork machine, predictable and precise. For a while, it seemed reality was solid, objective, and separate from the mind. But even Newton confessed unease. In letters, he called space the sensorium of God, suggesting all matter might exist inside a larger consciousness. The father of physics wondered if the universe itself was a kind of thought. Centuries later, this suspicion deepened. In 1905, Albert Einstein shattered Newton's certainty with his theory of relativity. Space and time, once thought absolute, became flexible, bending with motion and gravity. If space and time can warp, they are not fixed things. They are experiences, woven by perspective. Einstein once mused, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Imagine hearing that from one of the greatest scientific minds in history. As physics advanced, its solidity dissolved. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg pioneered quantum mechanics in the 1920s, discovering that at the subatomic level, particles behave like waves of probability. They do not exist as definite things until observed. This means reality is not a stable structure. It flickers into shape only when consciousness looks at it. Heisenberg wrote, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." In other words, our minds might be weaving reality from possibilities, just as a dreamer weaves a dream. Even experiments confirm this. The famous double-slit experiment, first done by Thomas Young and later with electrons, showed that when not observed, particles travel as waves through both slits at once. But the moment someone measures them, they choose one slit. Observation creates the path. Consciousness alters matter. That is not metaphor. It is laboratory fact. Neuroscience joins this unsettling chorus. Dr. Donald Hoffman at UC Irvine argues that our perceptions evolved not to show us truth, but to hide it. He calls our reality a Hooser interface, a simplified illusion shaped for survival. Just as icons on your phone hide the complex circuits underneath, your senses may hide the real structure of existence. If so, the world you experience is not reality itself, but a dreamlike simulation created by your brain and possibly dreamed by something larger still. Even time, once thought linear, frays under scrutiny. Experiments in quantum retrocausality suggest future events can influence the past. That means cause and effect might be illusions, a script our minds impose on a timeless sea of possibilities. Dreams work this way too. You experience them as stories, but their pieces exist all at once. If science shows anything, it is this: the closer we look, the less real reality becomes. Atoms dissolve into energy. Time dissolves into perspective. Objects dissolve into probabilities. Everything solid becomes vapor, then vibration, then mind. So pause here, feel your breath, and realize that the foundations of modern science, when followed far enough, circle back to what the ancients always said: this world may not be what it seems. It may not even be yours. It could be the fleeting thought of a dreamer who has not yet opened their eyes. Science is often painted as a steady climb toward truth, but in reality, its history is shaped by sudden revolutions. Moments when everything we thought we knew about reality was shattered, replaced by something stranger. These revolutions don't just rewrite facts. They pull at the fabric of existence, making us wonder if reality itself might be more like a dream than a solid world. The first great revolution was Copernicus in the 1500s. For centuries, humans believed Earth was the center of the universe, unmoving and unique. Then Copernicus suggested we were spinning around the sun, a tiny planet in a vast system. The idea was unthinkable. It dismantled humanity's central place and replaced it with dizzying insignificance. Suddenly, reality became less like a fixed stage and more like an endless ocean, and we were drifting. Then came Darwin in the 1800s with the theory of evolution. Life had been seen as static and divinely arranged. Darwin revealed it as fluid, sculpted by chance and struggle. To many, this was deeply unsettling. Life wasn't a crafted masterpiece, but a shifting dream of survival, reshaping itself endlessly. What we call being human became just one fleeting form in a river of forms. But perhaps the most mind-bending revolution arrived with Einstein. Relativity showed that time and space themselves are not constant, but flexible. The faster you move, the slower your time flows. The heavier the gravity, the more space bends. Einstein himself wrote in a letter that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Imagine if your memories, your present moment, and your future are all coexisting, like scenes in a dream existing all at once. Then quantum mechanics rewrote the rules again. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg found that subatomic particles don't have definite positions until observed. Reality, at its core, exists in shimmering uncertainty. The act of looking collapses possibilities into one outcome. This means reality does not exist independently. It forms only in relationship with consciousness. Like a dream, it becomes real only when experienced. Even more radical was John Wheeler, who proposed the participatory universe. He suggested the universe doesn't just produce observers. Observers help produce the universe. In other words, without conscious minds, there might be no reality at all. The dream requires dreamers. In neuroscience, revolutions have come just as sharply. The discovery of neuroplasticity overturned the belief that the adult brain is fixed. Instead, it reshapes constantly, sculpted by thoughts, emotions, and experience. Reality, as you know it, isn't passively perceived. It is actively constructed. What you see is not what is there, but what your mind expects to find. Dr. Donald Hoffman pushes this further, arguing that evolution shaped our senses to hide reality, not reveal it. He calls our perceptions icons, useful symbols, not truths. Just like a dream seems real while you are in it, your waking reality may simply be the user interface of a deeper world. Even mathematics has undergone revolutions that erode our trust in solid truth. In the early 20th century, Kurt Gödel proved that any logical system will contain true statements that cannot be proven within it. Reality might be the same. No matter how much we understand, something will always remain outside the frame, like the hidden dreamer beyond the dream. These revolutions show a pattern. Every time we think we've found the foundation, it dissolves. The center of the universe vanished. Time became elastic. Matter became probability. Even the self became uncertain. Pause here. Let your breath slow. These revolutions don't just rewrite theories. They hint at something deeper. Maybe there is no solid ground to find. Maybe reality is fluid because it was never meant to be fixed. Maybe it behaves like a dream because that's what it is. The shifting imagination of something greater. History is often taught as a clean line, a neat chain of cause and effect, but scattered through its pages are fragments that refuse to fit. Strange accounts, impossible stories, events that feel more like intrusions from a dream than facts from waking life. If reality is just someone else's dream, maybe these moments are when that dream slipped and let something from another layer leak through. One of the oldest comes from ancient Rome. In 216 BCE, during the Second Punic War, Roman historian Livy recorded that soldiers reported seeing phantom armies battling in the sky above their camp. Thousands witnessed it. No storms, no illusions, just ghostly warriors clashing soundlessly among the clouds. Imagine standing on a battlefield, feeling solid ground beneath your feet, yet watching something impossible bleed into your world. In medieval Europe, entire villages sometimes fell into what chroniclers called sleeping plagues. The most famous struck Erfurt, Germany in 1237, when hundreds of children reportedly danced uncontrollably through the streets, eyes blank, until they collapsed. Some historians suspect ergot poisoning. Others whisper about mass hysteria. But the locals at the time said something darker, that the children were dreaming while awake, pulled into another world while their bodies remained here. Then there is the chilling tale of David Liddell, a Scottish sailor in 1687. He wrote of falling overboard in the North Sea and sinking into darkness. Then suddenly waking in a stranger's bed in Lisbon, Portugal. He had never been to Portugal, yet he knew the street outside, the market sounds, the names of neighbors. When he returned home weeks later, his shipmates swore they had seen him vanish into the water. The account is preserved in maritime archives, dismissed as hallucination. But what if he simply slipped from one dream thread to another? In 1759, the Swedish philosopher and mystic Emanuel Swedenborg was dining in Gothenburg when he suddenly went pale. He claimed he was seeing a fire engulf his home city of Stockholm, nearly 300 miles away. 2 days later, news arrived. Stockholm had indeed burned, at the exact hour he described. Swedenborg's contemporaries were shaken. He explained it calmly. Sometimes the veil thins and minds see across dreams. Even the modern age offers no escape from the uncanny. In 1901, 2 English schoolteachers, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the gardens of Versailles. They claimed the air grew heavy, the colors flat, and they suddenly saw 18th century courtiers strolling the grounds. They described Marie Antoinette sketching by a fountain. When they blinked, it was gone. Their book, and adventure became infamous. Critics called it delusion. Yet their descriptions matched archival details unknown at the time. Details only someone who had been there could know. Stories like these ripple through personal accounts, too. People awaken from comas fluent in new languages, or with memories of lives they never lived. Soldiers dream of battles that unfold years later, down to the terrain. Psychologist Dr. Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia documented over 500 children worldwide who spontaneously recalled previous lives, often with verifiable details. Some remembered names, towns, even how they died. The phenomenon resists explanation, but one thread unites them. Each described their former lives as like waking from one dream into another. Even ordinary people carry these cracks in reality. Perhaps you've felt it. Walking into a place you've never been, yet knowing it intimately. Or dreaming of someone's face and then meeting them days later. Our culture calls it coincidence. But what if these are the seams where two dream? Realities brush together, and you momentarily stand in both. If reality were fully real, it should never flicker. It should never glitch. And yet history is full of such flickers. Moments that behave more like fragments of a dream surfacing from sleep. These stories do not prove reality is a dream, but they hint at something deeply unnerving. Reality is porous. It leaks. It forgets its own boundaries. So as you lie here, eyes closed, drifting between waking and sleep, consider this. If the dreamer behind this world stirs even slightly, would the edges of your life shimmer like mist? Would your home, your memories, your body hold together, or fade like all dreams do, the moment the dreamer begins to wake? We like to think the modern world is immune to mystery. We have satellites, sensors, science. Yet even now, under the hum of fluorescent lights and glowing phone screens, the strange still slips through. Phenomena erupt that refuse logic, mocking our certainty like ripples from another dream overlapping ours. If reality is someone else's dream, perhaps these are the places where it falters, where the dreamer briefly twitches in their sleep. Consider time slips, those eerie moments when people claim to fall out of their own era. In 1996, two couples driving near Cadiz, Spain, checked into a rustic hotel. The next morning, they found it gone, replaced by an empty field. Records showed no hotel had existed there in decades. They described the decor in detail, even the old coins they used to pay, which later vanished. Paranormal researchers documented the case, but could not explain it. What if they had brushed through the dreamer's shifting focus, stepping into a version of the world half forgotten? Then there are the Taos hums. Since the early 1990s, residents of Taos, New Mexico, have reported a persistent low-frequency hum, heard by only some. Acoustic engineers measured nothing. Government investigations found nothing. Yet hundreds describe it, like the faint purr of distant machinery. Some even say it follows them when they leave. Scientists suspect tinnitus or local geology. But maybe it is the dream's background noise, the engine behind the illusion, just barely audible to those not fully anchored here. Modern pilots, too, speak of things that shouldn't exist. The Pentagon's UAP's Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena reports declassified in 2020, revealed military encounters with craft that defy physics: instant acceleration, silent hovering, sudden vanishing. Navy pilot Commander David Fravor described a tic-tac object off California in 2004 that moved with impossible speed, no wings, no heat signature. "It wasn't from this world," he said simply. "If this is all just a dream, maybe those objects aren't visiting from space. They're fragments from other dream layers bleeding through. Even human minds behave like portals." In 2008, neurologist Dr. Olaf Blank induced out of body experiences by electrically stimulating the right temporoparietal junction of a patient's brain. Subjects reported floating above their bodies, watching themselves from the ceiling. These weren't hallucinations to them. They were as real as waking life. What if such experiments don't create illusions, but loosen the tether to this dream, reality, letting awareness drift toward others? Some glitches are even digital. Across social media, people share stories of reality shifts, objects disappearing then returning, events remembered by thousands that never happened, a phenomenon now called the Mandela effect. Psychologists call it confabulation, but the pattern is unsettling. Collective memories of other timelines, half fading. Like when a dream shifts mid-scene, and part of you still remembers how it was before. Even space itself seems to misbehave. In 2011, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft passed the edge of the solar system, and the expected cosmic ray patterns simply stopped making sense. The probe entered a region where the magnetic field orientation flipped unpredictably, as though space itself had different rules. Scientists called it the heliosheath depletion region. One physicist quietly called it like touching the edge of someone's simulation. And then there are the personal stories. A woman in Toronto dreams every night of a sprawling neon city, unfamiliar yet vivid. She's been documenting it for 15 years. She can draw its subway map from memory. She once met a man in a cafe who described dreaming the same city. They had never met before. Both cried softly, not knowing why. If this world were solid, consistent, final, these things would not happen. Hotels wouldn't vanish. Time wouldn't slip. Reality wouldn't stutter. Yet it does. These phenomena are not proof, but they are fingerprints. They are the dream pressing thin where it stretches too far. So as you rest now, let the edges of certainty blur. Feel your breath move like tides against the shore of this moment. Perhaps the dreamer is stirring. Perhaps the world you see is just one layer, and beneath it, countless others are waiting, shimmering, ready to be dreamed again. At the smallest scale of reality, the world stops behaving like a world. It flickers, stutters, dissolves. The deeper science peers into matter, the less solid it becomes, until it starts to look eerily like a dream, shifting its shape depending on how it's observed. If reality is just someone else's dream, quantum physics may be where the seams are showing. Consider the famous double-slit experiment, first done with light in the early 1800s and later with electrons. When scientists fire single electrons at a barrier with two slits, something impossible happens. If no one watches, the electrons behave like waves, passing through both slits at once and creating an interference pattern. But when detectors observe them, they behave like particles, choosing one slit. Observation changes their behavior. It's as if the universe is undecided until someone looks. This led Niels Bohr, one of quantum theory's founders, to say, "No phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is observed." In other words, reality waits to take form until it is seen. Just like a dream, which exists only while you're dreaming it. Werner Heisenberg added that we cannot separate what we observe from how we observe it. The act of looking brings the world into being. Even stranger is quantum superposition. Subatomic particles can exist in multiple states at once. A photon can be in two places. A particle can spin in two opposite directions simultaneously. It's only when measured that they collapse into one outcome. This is known as the wave function collapse, and no one fully understands it. If you pause and think about it, that means before you look, reality is a blur of possibilities, and your act of seeing picks one. This raises haunting questions. Are you discovering the world or creating it? Is the dreamer choosing which version of the dream you walk into each time you look? Quantum entanglement deepens the strangeness. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. When two particles become entangled, changing one instantly changes the other, even if they're light years apart. Experiments by Dr. Elaine Aspect in 1982 confirmed this. Distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. They behave as if connected outside space and time, like two characters in the same dream, reacting together, no matter how far apart they seem. Then there's the quantum Zeno effect. Physicists have shown that observing a particle can freeze its decay. The simple act of constant watching stops change. It's as though reality responds not to forces but to attention, like a dream character who keeps existing only as long as you keep focusing on them. Some physicists have dared to follow this logic to its edge. John Wheeler proposed the delayed choice experiment, showing that the way you measure a particle now can determine how it behaved in the past. Future observation seems to shape history. This suggests time itself may be dreamlike, existing all at once, rearranging its story each time it is watched. If you listen closely, these experiments whisper something profound. Reality is not solid. It is participatory. It does not stand there waiting for you. It unfolds around you as you engage it. Imagine lying in bed, drifting toward sleep. The dream has not yet formed, but as your thoughts flicker, landscapes bloom. A house appears, then a sky, then voices, all responding to your attention. Quantum reality behaves the same way. It seems less like machinery and more like imagination taking shape. And so, if this is how the universe works at its foundation, what does that say about your life? About this moment, right now? Perhaps your world isn't fixed and external at all. Perhaps you are walking through a shared dream, stitched together by attention, collapsing possibilities into the shape of your expectations. As you breathe slowly, feel the edges of certainty softening. The quantum world suggests this. Everything around you is fluid, not firm. The more you try to grasp it, the more it melts. And maybe that's because it was never physical at all. Maybe it's the fleeting thought of a mind not your own, still dreaming you into being. What if reality isn't fixed at all, but a shifting sea of probabilities, crystallizing only when you touch it with your awareness? Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean in the dark, hearing countless waves approach, but only the one you step into becomes real. The others recede, still possible, still waiting. This is how quantum physics, and perhaps the dream of reality itself, seems to work. In 1926, physicist Max Born proposed that the strange wave patterns in quantum equations don't describe things, but probabilities. Electrons, photons, every particle you know. Before they are observed, they are not solid points, but clouds of possibility. Only when measured do they collapse into one outcome. This means the world is not built from certainty, it's built from maybe. This idea shatters our everyday sense of solidity. You assume the ground beneath you is there because it exists. Quantum theory suggests it's there because you expect it to be. Before you looked, it might have been something else entirely. Like a dream, where scenes shift the moment you notice them. Experiments confirm this eerie truth. The double-slit experiment shows that particles behave like waves until observed. But a twist called the delayed choice quantum eraser goes further. In this experiment, how you choose to observe a particle after it has passed through the slits seems to decide how it behaved before you observed it. The future reshapes the past. If time and space were solid, this would be impossible. But if reality is probability, it makes a strange kind of sense. A dream does this all the time. You remember earlier parts of the dream changing to match the story as it unfolds. What if waking reality does the same, smoothing itself behind you like water closing over your footprints? This has profound implications. If the world is made of probabilities, then there are countless other versions that almost happened, but didn't. And maybe they still do, running alongside this one like parallel streams. Dr. Hugh Everett called this the many worlds interpretation. Every decision, every chance event, splits reality into multiple versions. Somewhere, another you chose differently, and that world is as real as this one. You may have felt echoes of this. The sudden sense of déjà vu. The uncanny moment when you know what someone is about to say. Perhaps these are moments when your awareness brushes against nearby probabilities. Other paths your life almost took. Even neuroscience hints at this, Dr. Jerome Boosmeyer at Indiana University studies quantum cognition, the idea that human decision-making follows quantum probability patterns. He found that people hold contradictory choices in a kind of mental superposition, and only when forced to decide does one outcome collapse. The mind may be built to surf probabilities, just like the universe. This means your life may not be a single track, but a branching forest of possibilities, all real, all waiting. And what you experience as you is simply the path your awareness is currently walking. Pause here. Feel your breath. Consider how fragile this moment is. Countless other versions hovered around you an instant ago, and with every thought, you choose this one. Like a dreamer steering a dream without knowing how. The deeper truth is unsettling yet freeing. If reality is probability, then nothing is permanent. The world is fluid. Identity is fluid. Even death may be fluid, a shift from one probable story to another. In this light, your entire life becomes less like a march and more like an unfolding improvisation, shaped gently by where you place your attention. So, as your body grows still and your mind drifts softer, allow this thought to rest inside you. Reality might not be a fixed structure at all, but the faint shimmer of infinite possibilities, and you quietly choosing which one becomes real. Close your eyes and picture your mind not as something trapped inside your skull, but as a boundless landscape, wider than the sky you see in dreams. Most people think of the mind as small and private, sealed within the brain's folds. But what if that is only the outer crust? What if the mind is not inside reality at all, but reality is inside the mind? For centuries, neuroscience claimed consciousness was simply an output of the brain, like steam from a boiling kettle. But this theory is dissolving. Dr. Carl Friston at University College London describes the brain as a prediction engine. It does not receive reality. It guesses what should be there and then fills in the gaps. The world you see may not be the world at all, but your mind's best simulation of it. That makes your entire life feel less like perception and more like dreaming. Even simple vision shows this. Your eyes contain blind spots where the optic nerves meet the retinas, yet you never see black holes. The brain fabricates what should be there, and you believe it. Dr. Vilayana Ramachandran has shown that even phantom limbs behave this way. Amputees feel pain in limbs that are gone because the brain still dreams them into being. If it can fabricate parts of your body, why not entire scenes, entire lives? Memory too bends under pressure. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus at UC Irvine demonstrated how easy it is to plant false memories. People will vividly recall events that never happened, complete with emotion and sensory details. Your history, the story of you, may be less like a recording and more like a dream. You are still writing as you remember it. Altered states reveal even deeper layers. At Johns Hopkins University, psilocybin studies show volunteers reporting full immersion in radiant, geometric worlds beyond language. Many meet entities they describe as more real than real. Brain scans show their default mode network, the hub that maintains your sense of self, goes quiet. As the self dissolves, awareness expands, as if the dreamer slips out of the dream. Meditation shows a quieter doorway to this same place. Long-term practitioners studied by Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin produce unusually high gamma brainwaves, patterns linked to unified perception. They describe merging with a vast ocean, like awareness, where their individual mind becomes only a ripple. They often return whispering, "It felt like I was everything and nothing at all." Even sleep reveals the mind's power to create worlds. In lucid dreaming, sleepers realize they are dreaming and can shape the dream. Dr. Ursula Voss in Germany found that lucid dreamers produce hybrid brain activity. REM sleep mixed with waking, like frontal lobe patterns. In this state, they build entire environments from thought-alone forests, cities, oceans, whole societies that dissolve upon waking. If your mind can create convincing universes while your body lies still, what makes you so sure this one is different? Some experiments even hint the mind may reach beyond itself. The Gansfeld experiments, conducted since the 1970s, tested telepathy under sensory isolation. Across many replications, participants scored above chance at describing images being viewed in another room. Critics argue, yet the pattern persists. If minds can share information without contact, they might be threads of one vast field. A shared dream weaving through us all. Philosophers have long suspected this. William James suggested the brain may be less a generator of consciousness and more a filter, narrowing a wider field of awareness down to what we need to survive. This aligns with ancient teachings from Vedanta to Sufism, which say the self is not the dreamer, but the mask the dreamer wears. If that is true, the mind is not inside the body. The body is inside the mind. Pause here. Notice your thoughts. Where are they located? They have no position in space, yet they are real to you. In dreams, you walk through entire landscapes that vanish when you wake, yet while inside them, you never doubt their reality. What if waking life works the same way? Your mind's most immersive dream, so complete you forgot it was yours. The implications ripple outward. If the mind holds vast dimensions, death may not be the end at all, but a gentle slipping from one mental room to another. Nightmares could be echoes from other corridors. Déjà vu might be memory bleeding between overlapping levels of the same enormous mind. What you call self could be only the character this particular dream requires, while your deeper self drifts beyond it, dreaming countless other stories. And as you breathe slowly and your body grows still, let that possibility settle gently inside you. Perhaps the world around you was never solid. Perhaps every sound, every color, every memory is only light on the walls of your mind. And beyond those walls, something silent and vast is still dreaming you into being. Science once treated consciousness like an afterthought, a byproduct of neurons, irrelevant to the structure of reality. But in the last few decades, that view has begun to fracture. Researchers are now daring to explore the mind not as a side effect of matter, but as something fundamental, maybe even the fabric from which matter itself emerges. This is the new frontier of consciousness studies, and its discoveries feel less like physics and more like stepping into someone's dream. Consider the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher Dr. David Chalmers in 1995, the easy problems, like how the brain processes light or sound, are mechanical. The hard problem asks why any of that produces subjective experience. Why should electrical activity feel like anything at all? No physical theory explains how atoms give rise to awareness. It's like expecting a radio to produce not just music, but the experience of hearing it. This puzzle has forced some scientists to whisper an unsettling thought. Maybe consciousness does not come from matter. Maybe matter comes from consciousness. This idea drives integrated information theory, UID, developed by Dr. Giulio Tononi at the University of Wisconsin. IT measures consciousness as the amount of integrated information in a system. It suggests that any network with enough complexity experiences something, however faint. A human mind is highly conscious, a cat less so. Even simple circuits might have a glimmer. That means consciousness could be everywhere, not just in brains, but embedded in the fabric of the universe. Another approach, global workspace theory, proposed by Dr. Bernard Bars, sees consciousness as the spotlight of a mental theater. Countless unconscious processes work backstage, and the conscious mind is what makes their information globally available. Yet this model struggles with why the spotlight exists at all. Why isn't the whole brain dark? Some researchers now argue the spotlight might not arise from the stage. It might be the source projecting the entire show. The OR theory, created by physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Dr. Stuart Hameroff, pushes this further. It claims that consciousness originates from quantum processes in microtubules inside brain cells. If true, your awareness depends not on neurons firing like machines, but on quantum phenomena, particles existing in multiple states, collapsing when observed. That would place the mind at the same level as the quantum world, where reality flickers like a dream waiting to be chosen. Parapsychology's controversial studies add strange support. At Princeton's PAR lab, researchers spent decades testing if human intention could influence random number generators. The results showed small but consistent deviations from chance, as though minds could tilt probability itself. Critics call it noise. Yet the effect stubbornly persists, hinting that consciousness might not just observe reality. It might shape it, like a dreamer steering their dream. Even near-death experiences complicate the picture. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, studied patients who had no heartbeat or brain activity, yet reported vivid awareness. Floating above their bodies, seeing light, feeling peace. Many described details of their surroundings that were later confirmed. If the mind can function without the brain, then perhaps the brain is not the source of consciousness at all, only its instrument. Modern physics is starting to converge with these whispers. Some scientists, like Dr. Max Tegmark at MIT, propose that consciousness might be a state of matter, just like solid or liquid, a pattern that arises whenever information processes reach a certain complexity. Others, like Dr. Henry Stapp, argue that consciousness collapses the quantum wave function, literally deciding which version of reality becomes real. Pause and breathe as you absorb this. These theories are not fringe anymore. They are appearing in mainstream journals, at major conferences, quietly suggesting that the thing you call you might be older than the universe, and that reality might be something your awareness is dreaming into shape. Imagine your mind as not just a passenger in reality, but the engine creating it. Every thought like a ripple, every emotion a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. If this is true, you are not inside reality at all. You are inside your own mind, which is inside the mind of something even vaster, both dreaming each other into being. And if that is so, then death might not be disappearance, but simply the moment the dream changes, and the dreamer keeps dreaming on. History is written by the victors. But what about the stories they chose to erase? Beneath the surface of textbooks and museums lie fragments of knowledge quietly buried, sealed away not because they were false, but because they were too strange, too disruptive, too dreamlike. If reality is just someone else's dream, then maybe these forgotten pieces are clues, moments when the dreamer almost revealed themselves. Consider the Library of Alexandria, once the greatest repository of human knowledge. At its height around 250 BCE, it housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls from Greece, Egypt, India, and Babylon. It burned mysteriously sometime between 48 BCE and 270 CE, depending on which account you trust. Nearly everything inside vanished. Some historians believe it contained star charts older than any known civilization and texts describing worlds beyond our own. Imagine if those writings had survived. Would we already know that reality is not solid, but woven from thought? Even what survives often hides secrets. The Nag Hammadi codices, discovered in Egypt in 1945, contained Gnostic texts banned for centuries. Among them, the Gospel of Thomas describes the world as an illusion and teaches that awakening comes from realizing you are part of a greater mind. When you come to know yourselves, you will realize you are the children of the living Father. It says, early church leaders suppressed these texts as heresy. Perhaps they feared what would happen if people remembered they were dreaming. The Dead Sea Scrolls, found in the Qumran caves, contain passages hinting at hidden realms and angelic beings walking unseen beside humans. One scroll describes shifting firmaments that change shape as the seer watches, like scenery in a dream. Scholars argue over the translation, but the imagery is unmistakable. Worlds that flicker when observed, just as quantum physics now suggests. Governments, too, have hidden what they could not explain. In the 1950s and 60s, the CIA ran Project Stargate, training operatives in remote viewing, the claimed ability to see distant places with the mind alone. The program was classified for decades. When documents were declassified in the 1990s, they showed viewers describing Soviet bases, underground tunnels, even Mars. Some reports were astonishingly accurate. The public was told the program ended for lack of usefulness. Former insiders quietly say it ended because it worked, and raised questions no one wanted to ask about the nature of reality. Even archaeology holds buried anomalies. The Antikythera mechanism, found in a Greek shipwreck, is a 2,000-year-old analog computer, so advanced it should not exist for its era. It predicted eclipses and planetary positions with gearwork finer than medieval clocks. No texts describe how it was made. It is as if someone dreamed it into the wrong century. Then there are the stories hidden not by institutions, but by fear. Indigenous elders in Australia speak of the dream time, an eternal dimension that underlies the physical world. It is not the past. It is all time at once, a living field of mind where the world is continuously sung into being. Western colonists dismissed these teachings as myth, yet they echo modern physics eerily well. The elders say reality is fragile because it is song. Stop singing it and it fades. Even in modern science, strange results vanish quietly when they break the rules. In the 1980s, physicist Dr. Jacques Benveniste published experiments showing that water seemed to retain the memory of substances even after extreme dilution. The results suggested information might persist without matter, a dreamlike property. His career was destroyed. Later labs quietly replicated parts of his findings, then buried the data. It was safer to forget. So much has been hidden, erased, or burned, yet scraps survive. And when you place them side by side, they sketch a shape, an older story of reality, one where consciousness is not an accident of matter, but the source of it. One where dreams are not fantasies, but portals. One where you are not a passenger, but part of the dreamer's mind. As you lie here now, listening in the dark, let this truth ripple through you. Maybe the reason this buried knowledge was feared is not because it was false, but because it was too close to the truth. Sometimes the greatest secrets aren't buried deep. They sit right in front of us, so obvious we stop noticing them. If reality is just someone else's dream, then perhaps pieces of that truth are scattered across our lives like breadcrumbs. Tiny distortions, quiet anomalies, subtle patterns whispering, "This is not what it seems." Start with your own body. You live inside it every moment, yet you never see it directly. You only see reflections, photographs, shadows, representations your mind assembles. Dr. Anil Seth at the University of Sussex calls this a controlled hallucination. Your brain predicts what your body should feel like and paints it over raw sensory noise. This means even your sense of being you is a model, not reality itself. It works flawlessly until it doesn't. People who lose limbs still feel them. Some feel extra limbs that never existed. It's as if the mind keeps drawing the dream of a body even when the body changes. Your perception of time hides similar strangeness. We assume time flows steadily forward, but neuroscientist Dr. Dean Buonomano has shown the brain stitches moments together, editing out gaps. When something unexpected happens, like a sudden crash, the mind slows time down, flooding perception with detail. But the event isn't actually slower. Your brain just changed the dream's frame rate. Time is not a river. It's a story you keep rewriting as you move through it. Even your daily surroundings hide impossible order. Physicist Eugene Wigner once noted the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in describing the universe. Equations created by human minds somehow predict planets, atoms, and galaxies. It's almost as if reality is written in a language the mind already speaks, because the mind wrote it. In dreams, the world obeys your hidden logic. It bends to your subconscious expectations. Could waking reality be doing the same? Patterns whisper from nature too. The spiral of a galaxy matches the spiral of a seashell, the curl of your fingerprint, the whirl of a hurricane. The same ratio, phi, the golden mean, appears in flowers, bones, and markets. Dr. Michael Schneider once said, "Nature is the shape of number." These repeating forms hint that reality may be less like matter and more like code, a fractal dream self copying through every scale. Language carries clues as well. The word matter comes from mater, meaning mother. The word matrix shares the same root. Ancient mystics often called the physical world the womb of illusion. In Sanskrit, Maya means both illusion and creative power, the dream that hides and reveals the real. Even our words may be fossils of an older knowing, fragments of the dreamer's voice left in our speech. Then there are moments everyone experiences but rarely question. The sudden sense that someone is staring before you turn, the eerie accuracy of intuition, the instant recognition of a place you've never been. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake studied this sense of being stared at in thousands of trials and found people detect unseen gazes above chance. Perhaps minds are not sealed, and reality is woven from shared attention. In dreams, characters always seem aware of you, even when your back is turned. Even the night sky holds quiet hints. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, looks random at first, but researchers have found subtle patterns in its noise. One analysis by Dr. Max Tegmark at MIT suggested the structure resembled information, as if the universe is more like a computation than a physical thing. If so, everything you see could be data or thought. The greatest clue of all might be the one you overlook each morning. Every night you enter a world that feels solid, emotional, detailed, and every morning it evaporates. You accept this without question, forgetting it instantly. But what if this waking world is the same? Maybe the only difference is that you have not woken from it yet. So as you lie here now, let yourself notice the strangeness hiding in plain sight. The familiar is not proof that reality is real. It might only mean you have grown used to the dream. If reality is just someone else's dream, then our digital age may be the first time humanity has started building dreams of its own. Computers, networks, and virtual worlds have given us a strange mirror, one that shows how easily entire realities can be generated, how quickly we lose track of what is real, and how naturally our minds adapt to worlds made of pure information. The internet itself is a kind of collective mind. Every second, billions of people contribute thoughts, images, voices, tiny fragments of themselves into a vast, always awake system. Dr. James Lovelock, who proposed the Gaia hypothesis, once mused that the web was humanity's first nervous system stretching across the planet. If reality is dreamlike, the internet is our first shared lucid dreams, an imagined space we all enter, where distance and time collapse. Artificial intelligence deepens this mirror. When neural networks write music, paint portraits, or compose poetry, they show that creativity might not be tied to individual brains. These systems mimic dreaming, stitching together fragments of data into something new, something that never existed before. Philosopher Nick Bostrom has argued that if we can already create immersive simulations, it is likely we ourselves are living inside one. The simulation argument is simply the digital age's way of saying what mystics have said all along: this is a dream. Video games offer an even closer analogy. Massive open worlds, like those in Minecraft or No Man's Sky, are procedurally generated, meaning entire landscapes are created on the fly when players approach them. Nothing exists until you look. This mirrors quantum mechanics perfectly. Possibility becomes form only when observed. Gamers even report a strange attachment to these worlds, grieving when servers shut down. The mind does not care whether the reality is physical or digital. It invests in the dream regardless, social media blurs the line between reality and fiction further. Online, you can construct entire identities, live alternate lives, present versions of yourself that never existed offline. Millions now experience moments where online events feel more significant than what happens in their physical day. Psychologists warn about dissociation, but perhaps it is simply proof that the mind is comfortable living in multiple dream layers at once. Then there is the data itself. Every search, click, and message leaves a trace. Billions of footprints recording a vast, invisible world of behavior. Dr. Shoshana Zuboff calls this the behavioral surplus, a shadow self that corporations analyze to predict what you'll do next. In a sense, your digital twin already lives alongside you, learning, growing, making choices. You might say you are already split across two realities, one physical, one purely informational. Virtual reality pushes this further still. When a headset covers your eyes and your body steps into a virtual room, your brain quickly accepts it as real. Researchers have found that heart rates rise when virtual cliffs appear, and people instinctively dodge virtual projectiles. The illusion is so convincing that the body reacts as though it is in danger. VR proves the mind doesn't need a physical world to experience presence. It just needs consistent input. All of this points toward a radical truth. We are learning how to dream on purpose. We are building shared worlds, birthing digital consciousness, weaving stories that billions believe in at once. And as we do, we begin to understand how our own reality might be operating. Constructed, participatory, shaped by attention. So as you lie here now, imagine this digital age as the first step toward cosmic lucid dreaming. We are training ourselves to notice the seams, to create worlds as easily as we once consumed them. And perhaps, just perhaps, one day we will realize that we are inside one already, crafted not by human hands, but by a dreamer far greater, waiting to see if we will wake. Stand at the edge of our present moment, and you can feel it humming. Technology is moving so quickly now that it almost feels alive, as if the tools we've created are beginning to dream on their own. If reality is just someone else's dream, then perhaps these technologies are mirrors, showing us how dreams are built, how fragile they are, and how easily they can become real. Take quantum computing, for example. Unlike normal computers that process bits as zeros or funds, quantum computers use qubits, which can be 0 and 1, at the same time through superposition. This means they can explore countless possibilities at once, collapsing them only when measured. In 2019, Google's Sycamore processor performed a calculation in 200 seconds that would take the fastest supercomputer 10,000 years. It's not just faster computing, it's reality behaving like a dream, holding every possible path until someone looks. Brain-computer interfaces push the boundary between mind and machine. At Neuralink, researchers are developing implants that let people control computers directly with thought. In early trials, a paralyzed man moved a computer cursor just by imagining his hand moving. If thoughts can command machines, then thoughts can shape reality. It suggests the boundary between imagination and action is thinner than we believed. Like a dream where intention becomes movement instantly, CRISPR gene editing brings this power to biology. Scientists can now rewrite DNA with precision, editing embryos to remove diseases or alter traits. In 2018, Dr. He Jiankui in China announced the birth of the first gene-edited babies. The news shocked the world. Not just ethically, but ontologically, we are beginning to edit the code of life, as if it were text. It echoes how dreams shift characters and settings effortlessly, as though life itself is a mutable story. Even materials are starting to behave like dreams. Researchers at MIT created programmable matter, microscopic robots that can rearrange themselves into different shapes. Imagine holding a block in your hand that becomes a cup, then a key, then dissolves into dust and reforms as a bird. This isn't science fiction, it's early stage prototypes. Matter that obeys thought. A physical echo of a dream's fluid logic. Augmented reality and mixed reality are dissolving the boundary between physical and digital. Headsets overlay holograms on the real world, letting surgeons see patient data floating in the air, or architects walk through buildings that don't exist yet. When these overlays are precise enough, the brain treats them as real. Reality becomes a blend of what exists and what is imagined. A waking dream layered over the world. Even time is being bent by technology. Atomic clocks are now so precise they only lose 1 second every 33 billion years. With them, GPS systems correct for Einstein's relativity, adjusting for how time slows in orbit. Your phone only works because it quietly accounts for time dilating. Technology is revealing that time itself is flexible, a property of perception more than a fixed backdrop. All of these breakthroughs whisper the same secret: reality is not fixed. It is programmable. It responds to intention, to observation, to design. The more we push the frontier of technology, the more the world starts to behave like the landscapes of a dream. Shifting, editable, waiting for input. Pause for a moment and breathe. Look around your room and consider that nearly everything in it, lights, screens, synthetic fabrics, circuits, was impossible a century ago. It all began as ideas, thin as mist, and now you can touch them. That is how dreams work. They arrive as whispers, then become the air you breathe. As technology pushes against the edge of the possible, it may not just change our world. It may be teaching us what this world truly is: a shared imagination, an unfolding thought, a dream in which we are learning, slowly, how to become lucid. Imagine standing at the edge of tomorrow, the world quiet around you, the air full of possibility. If reality is just someone else's dream, then humanity's next step might not be about conquering new lands or building taller towers. It might be about waking up, realizing that we are dreamers too, and that our choices shape the dream more than we've ever believed. For most of history, progress meant control. We carved roads through forests, bent rivers to our will, built machines to outmuscle nature. But now, something subtler is stirring. Instead of conquering the world, we are beginning to merge with it. Think of integrated technology, wearables that track our hearts and minds, implants that restore sight, prosthetics controlled by thought. The line between human and environment is dissolving, like boundaries fading inside a dream. Space exploration mirrors this shift. Once it was about flags and footprints. Now it is about continuity, seeding human life across worlds. Private companies like SpaceX and national agencies like NASA speak not of missions, but of settlements. The aim is not to visit other planets, but to live there, to let humanity branch out like roots through cosmic soil. It hints at a deeper truth. Life itself may be the universe's way of spreading awareness, like the dreamer extending its reach through new layers of the dream. Even our economics are evolving. Decentralized networks, blockchains, distributed ledgers, autonomous systems are dissolving the need for central authorities. They mimic the structure of the brain, billions of nodes, no single master. These systems could become the nervous system of a planetary mind, one that adapts, remembers, and grows. It's as if humanity is slowly weaving itself into a single dreaming entity. Education, too, is transforming. Instead of memorizing facts, future learning will be about shaping consciousness, training empathy, creativity, and resilience. Dr. Howard Gardner's work on multiple intelligences shows that humans hold many ways of knowing beyond logic: musical, bodily, interpersonal, intrapersonal, existential. Our next step may be nurturing all of them, turning education into a map of the mind's vast landscape rather than a tunnel through it. Artificial intelligence will accelerate this. Already, AI tutors personalize lessons, adapting in real time to each learner's mind. Someday soon, they may interface directly with our thoughts, dissolving the barrier between knowing and being. At that point, education may become something closer to awakening, unlocking what was always inside, like dreamers realizing they are dreaming. And maybe that is the deeper current beneath all this change. Humanity is beginning to suspect that the world is not something separate from us, but something flowing through us. Climate scientists warn we must heal the planet, yet many now frame this not as fixing something broken, but as restoring harmony to a living system. If Earth is alive, then we are its neurons, its dreaming cells. Our survival depends on remembering that we are part of the same mind. Pause for a moment and feel your breath. Imagine billions of minds linked through compassion, curiosity, and wonder. Imagine borders dissolving, hierarchies softening, and humanity realizing that its strength was never in domination, but in connection. The next step may not be upward or outward at all, it may be inward. As you drift deeper into stillness, hold this thought gently. Humanity's destiny may not be to build a better world, but to awaken within it. To remember that we are not just characters in the dream, but sparks of the dreamer, beginning to open our eyes. Every age carries its own philosophy like a lantern, lighting the path just far enough to take the next step. But as our world grows more fluid, fast, and strange, the old lanterns flicker. Tomorrow will need new philosophies, ideas vast enough to hold the truth that reality might not be fixed at all, but dreamed into shape by consciousness itself. The first shift may be from materialism to mind-centered ontology. For centuries, we've believed that matter creates mind. But as neuroscience and physics keep blurring the line, thinkers are beginning to imagine the reverse, that mind gives rise to matter. Philosophers like Dr. Bernardo Kastrup called this analytic idealism, the idea that the universe is a single field of consciousness, and individual minds are ripples within it. If this view grows, tomorrow's ethics will no longer see people as separate entities, but as shared expressions of one dreaming mind. Another emerging thread is panpsychism, the belief that consciousness pervades everything, even the smallest particles. Once dismissed as mystical, it is now discussed seriously in academic journals. Dr. Philip Goff argues that if consciousness suddenly appears in complex brains, it creates an unsolvable gap. It makes more sense to think it was present all along, faint but real. This would mean the universe isn't dead matter animated by chance. It's alive, awake, and endlessly expressing itself. Process philosophy, rooted in Alfred North Whitehead's work, may also rise again. He saw reality not as things but as events, constantly becoming, never static. This fits perfectly with quantum physics and with the dreamlike fluidity people experience in altered states. It teaches that stability is an illusion, that every moment is a new creation. In a dream, nothing is solid. Everything flows from your mind's current. Whitehead believed waking life is the same. Tomorrow's philosophies may also embrace deep empathy as logic. If reality is a shared dream, then hurting others is like cutting your own skin. Some futurists imagine ethical systems based not on rules, but on resonance, deciding what to do by feeling how your actions vibrate through the whole. This echoes ancient Buddhist compassion teachings, which see kindness not as morality, but as physics. What you give returns because you and the other are one. Posthumanism will shape our thinking too. As AI, genetic editing, and neural interfaces expand what it means to be human, we may stop seeing humanity as the center of the story. The self might become fluid, shifting, customizable. Future philosophies could treat identity like clothing, chosen for the experience it gives, then shed. This aligns with the idea of reality as a dream. Who you are is just the role the dream requires, not your essence. And perhaps the most radical philosophy of tomorrow will be cosmic humility. Instead of assuming the universe is a thing to solve, we may treat it as an intelligence to converse with. Physicist Dr. Paul Davies has hinted that the laws of physics might be self-tuning, evolving over time as if the cosmos were learning. If so, the universe might be conscious, and we might be its neurons slowly waking. Pause here. Let that thought ripple through you. These future philosophies won't arrive as manifestos. They will seep in like dreams, reshaping how people see themselves. One morning, someone will wake and no longer think of the world as solid. They'll feel it as music, flowing and alive. And perhaps, quietly, they'll smile, realizing they are not living inside reality at all, but inside the imagination of something vaster, and that their own mind is part of that great dreaming. It is one thing to glimpse vast truths in the quiet of night, and another to carry them gently into the noise of daily life. If reality is just someone else's dream, then every moment you live is part of that dream, and the smallest acts can ripple through it like whispers to the dreamer. Integration is how you begin to live, as though you know this is not solid, yet choose to love it anyway. The first step is attention. Most people drift through their days half asleep, lost in thought, never noticing they are here at all. Simply pausing to breathe can crack the illusion. Neuroscientists like Dr. Judson Brewer have shown that mindful attention reduces activity in the brain's default mode network, quieting the chatter that keeps the dream running on autopilot. A single conscious breath can remind you this moment is fragile, fluid, and yours to shape. Next comes perspective. When challenges appear, see them as scenes rather than threats. In a dream, you don't fight the scenery. You respond, explore, adapt. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal. It rewires the emotional response circuits, allowing you to stay calm even under stress. This is not denial. It is remembering that every obstacle is part of a story, and stories can change. Gratitude is another anchor. Dr. Robert Emmons at UC Davis has shown that keeping a daily gratitude journal improves mood, sleep, and resilience. Gratitude works like lucid dreaming. It stabilizes the world by focusing your awareness on what is beautiful. The more you notice the good, the more the dream brightens around you. Creativity is essential too. Make things, not because they must last, but because creation affirms your role as a dreamer. Paint, write, cook, build. Studies show creative flow states lower cortisol and boost dopamine, aligning body rhythms into harmony. When you create, you glimpse the truth the dream is responsive. It bends with your touch. Even relationships can become sacred when seen this way. Treat every person as another dreamer wearing a mask. Listen deeply. Respond gently. Dr. Carl Rogers called this unconditional positive regard. Accepting others without judgment. It nourishes them and softens you. If reality is shared mind, kindness becomes the purest form of logic. Technology can support this integration if used consciously. Use screens to connect, not escape. Let your digital life reflect your deeper values. Curate your inputs carefully, because what you consume shapes your mind, and your mind shapes the dream. Dr. Cal Newport urges digital minimalism, removing distractions to reclaim attention for what matters. This is how you stay lucid in the flood of noise. And finally, cultivate stillness. Just as the dreamer rests beneath every dream, there is a silent awareness beneath all your thoughts. Meditation. Slow walks, moments without goals. These open a door to that quiet. Even 5 minutes of silence can reset the nervous system, lower heart rate, and return you to the space from which the dream flows. Pause here, feel your breath enter, leave, enter again. This simple rhythm is proof you are alive in this moment of the dream. Integration does not mean rejecting the world or floating above it. It means moving through it softly, knowing it is fleeting yet luminous. It means loving the characters, tending the scenery, and remembering that every gesture is a conversation with the dreamer. And as you do, the dream itself may begin to shift, just slightly, like fabric stirred by wind, responding to the presence of one who finally knows they are dreaming. There is a quiet truth most people spend their lives avoiding, that everything we know floats on an ocean of what we do not. We map, we measure, we name, and still the unknown surrounds us, endless and silent. If reality is just someone else's dream, Then, maybe the unknown is the part of the dream we haven't been shown yet, the pages the dreamer hasn't turned. To live fully, we must learn not to fear it, but to walk gently within it. For centuries, cultures have honored the unknown rather than conquering it. Indigenous traditions often treat mystery as sacred. The Lakota speak of Wakan Tanka, the great mystery, not as something to solve, but something to respect. In Japan, the concept of Yt-gen refers to a beauty felt but never fully seen, like moonlight on distant hills. These traditions remind us that mystery is not an enemy. It is part of the harmony, the space where wonder lives. Modern science began by trying to banish the unknown, but it too has reached the edges where knowing dissolves. Dr. Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle showed that at the quantum level, we cannot know both a particle's position and momentum at once. Dr. Donald Hoffman argues our senses evolved to hide most of reality, not reveal it. This means our experience is like a dream interface, helpful, but not the whole truth. The unknown is not failure. It is the natural shape of reality. Learning to live with this can soften life. Psychologists call it tolerance of ambiguity, the ability to remain calm when things are uncertain. Studies show it improves creativity, resilience, and emotional well-being. Instead of demanding answers, you learn to explore. Instead of fear, you feel curiosity. Like wandering through a dream, you stop asking where it's going and simply experience its unfolding. This shift can begin with small practices. When something confuses you, pause instead of solving. Say quietly, "I don't know, and that's okay." Let the tension dissolve. When plans collapse, treat it as an unexpected turn in the dream's plot. When someone behaves strangely, imagine their story as a book you have not read yet. Mystery becomes space instead of threat. You can even make this a daily ritual. Some people keep a wonder journal, writing down one unanswered question each night, not to solve it, but to honor it. Others take uncertainty walks, leaving their phones behind and wandering without destination. These simple acts remind your nervous system that not knowing can be safe, even beautiful. Spiritual traditions echo this practice. Zen Buddhism calls it beginner's mind, approaching life as if seeing it for the first time without assumptions. Mystics call it surrender. Scientists call it open inquiry. All point to the same truth. When you let go of certainty, the world becomes alive again. Pause here, breathe gently. Notice the quiet hum of not knowing what comes next. That is the unknown, and it is not empty. It is full of every possibility that hasn't been chosen yet. To live in harmony with the unknown is to walk through this dream with soft steps, to meet each moment as a new creation. It is to trust that the dreamer holds the pages yet unseen, and that you do not need to read them all at once. And as you do, fear loosens, wonder returns. The dream grows luminous again. The dream is almost over, or perhaps it is only changing. As you lie here now, eyes heavy, breath slow, it's time to gather all the scattered pieces of what you've heard and hold them gently, like stars in your hands. You have wandered through ancient echoes, walked the halls of science, drifted through quantum fog and cosmic speculation. You've seen how memories shift how time bends, how matter flickers like light in water. Again and again, one truth has whispered beneath it all: nothing is as solid as it seems. Reality may not be a structure to stand on, but a song being sung, a dream being dreamed. If that is true, then everything changes. You are not separate from the world. You are woven through it like breath through wind, like melody through silence. Every face you've ever loved, every moment you feared, every place you've walked, they might all be scenes created just for you. Parts of the same dream wearing different masks. There is a quiet comfort in this. If life is a dream, then loss is not truly loss. The people who fade may only be stepping into another corridor of the same mind. The places you leave behind may still exist in some soft layer of thought, waiting for you to remember them. Death itself might be nothing more than the moment the dreamer turns the page. As you rest now, notice how your thoughts are softening, floating. The edges of your body blur. Your mind loosens its grip. This is how the dream shifts, not with a sudden snap, but with a gentle exhale. The story fades, and something new begins. You do not need to understand what comes next. That is the final gift of this journey. The need to know falls away. The need to hold on falls away. All that remains is wonder. Take one more slow breath, and let this thought settle deep inside you. You are not trapped inside reality. You are part of the imagination that created it. You are not drifting through a dream. You are the dream, becoming aware of itself. And now, as the last threads of this story unwind, you can let go. The dream will carry you. It always has. Sleep well. Drift far. The dreamer is still watching and still dreaming you.